Hello, it's What the Doodle here, and I wanted to talk about Neofetch, and this is something going back to the 30th of April. It has been announced that essentially the project has been archived on GitHub. I believe this was something that was started a lot earlier, and there was a lot of question about the project being abandoned and so forth. And in fact, we can have a look at the sort of the headline on Oh My God Ubuntu, and yeah, as you might be aware, the project itself has on GitHub has officially been archived. And if we go over to the actual repo itself, we can clearly see that on the 26th. So it was actually earlier than the 30th that the actual project Neofetch was archived. And I'm pretty sure that there's been forks of this already. And obviously, Neofetch isn't the only sort of fetch uh, project. There's been other ones. Obviously, the fact that it's called Neofetch suggests that there was fetch prior to that, and I don't know the status of those, but uh, from what I understand, Neofetch is pretty popular. Anyway, so I was diving through the code and just trying to understand it, but it's amazing because it is almost 11,000 lines of code. I mean, if we scroll all the way to the bottom, yeah, 11,592 to be exact. That is a huge amount of code. So, and all in Bash as well. Now, to be fair, quite a lot of it is actually taken out by the logos. So the actual ASCII art for each of the distro logos. But it's still, it's still impressive because obviously there's a huge amount of, if you scroll through, you'll see a huge amount of logic that goes in because of to kind of capture all the various kind of ugliness, if you like, of the various different systems, because there isn't always a consistency. So all of those little things have to be taken into consideration in order to sort of figure out what the various different distributions are and what the versions are and whatnot. So anyway, what I was doing is I was just sort of deciphering some of this, just just because it was so interesting. And so, for example, so if we scroll down to the actual logos, which are further down here somewhere, yeah, here we can see all of each of the ASCII logos for the different distributions, and essentially you'll see that this is essentially a template, and then you have these. Not all of them have them, but quite a few of them will actually have the actual colorization, and these are kind of done by these. I guess they're sort of not sure the exact word. I guess they're like bash expansions or something like that, and or bash subqueries. I'm not sure, or sub shells or whatever. But yeah, there's a function. I started unpacking it, so I started seeing this function set here, or this thing called set colors, which seems to take a bunch of parameters. So then I started looking at the actual function itself. So I thought there must be a function called set colors, and we go there and we find clearly, yeah, there is one here. And then we start unpacking, and we can see here, for example, each of those C1, C2 values, how they seems to go all the way up to C6, for example, and it takes in the argument, if you like. Each of the arguments are set through here, and then we see this other function inside of this called color. So we can then, obviously, it does a whole bunch of other things as well. So if we look at colors, for example, color, I should say. And obviously, yeah, that does appear a huge amount of times. But yeah, so here's the actual function, and then that in itself does a whole bunch of other things. There's like a conditional switch, so depending on which number you put in, and then you start to get to the meat of it, and you kind of see here's doing a sort of a formatted print, and it's passing in the parameter, and then you see another variable here, which is $reset, and we can try and find out where that is actually set, and we can see, yep. This is sort of a variable that's set, and yeah, to unpack it, it's kind of like pulling on a thread, and you start untangling it, and the more you pull it, and then the further you go. So anyway, so the reason I started showing you this is because I was like, okay, yeah, Neofetch is kind of dead, and it got me intrigued into, okay, what would it be to try and build something like a miniature Neofetch or something like that. So for that reason, I started essentially a new Rust project, and I've called it hyperfetch. I don't know. It's just a working title. I'm not sure if that'll work. Not sure if that'll stick. It probably has been taken. This is the problem with naming projects. You have to be super careful. But yeah, essentially, I started breaking those little functions down and unpacking everything. And as I said, I've started to put in the different logos, ASCII logos, and I'm just lifting the template as is because obviously it's just so much to try and cover. And yeah, so as you can see, I'm doing a similar kind of thing, and from what I can understand, it's doing some form of colorization where it actually puts these are the ANSI escape codes. So that's what it essentially does, and we take the template, we colorize it, and then we spit that out to the terminal. Obviously, there's a lot more. I mean, this is just me. It's just an experimentation. There's a huge amount of stuff to go over. So obviously, I still have to, for example, figure out how it's doing the OS detection as well as the sort of the kernel and the versions and all that kind of stuff. So that's something I'll start looking into. So it's just the bare bones, just the basics. But yeah, we can run this now. So if I bring up a terminal and we go to our desktop into hyperfetch, and let's just clear the terminal and just run it. So at the moment, this was just to test the actual, so we've just hard-coded to pick up Arch, for example. But yeah, as you can see, it is working. It's rendering it out, and it's doing the ANSI, it's injecting the correct ANSI code into the actual template and then spitting that out. And that's it for this session. So until next time, I'll see you on the next one.